Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to the channel. Or if you are new here, welcome to the channel. My name is SJ and I'm an adult doll and toy collector who just wants to talk about dolls and toys. And this channel is made for adult doll and toy collectors. So the other day, me and my friends were talking about toys that we remember growing up with, that we remember fondly. And just for reference, we were all born in the later part of the 80s, like think 88, 89. So we grew up in the 90s. We saw everything come and go. We saw the birth of internet, chat rooms, all of that. We're older than Google. Okay. One thing that we all collectively remember fondly is this certain small little plush toy called Beanie Babies. And it got me thinking, what possessed us to go out and seek these Beanie Babies out? Like, why were we so obsessed with them? What made us want to camp out outside of a Hallmark to get our hands on them? What made people rack up thousands of dollars in credit card debt to get their hands on them? So I decided to go down this little rabbit hole of Beanie Babies and figure out what made them so popular, the marketing that they use, because that is one thing I am super interested in, is the marketing tactics that companies, primarily toy companies, use. This is going to be a 3-part video. The first part is going to be about the rise and fall of the Beanie Babies. Second part is going to be the crimes that took place due to these Beanie Babies. And the third part is going to be about the new tactics that people are using to sell these Beanie Babies. So if you like videos like this, make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I post the other parts. But let's get into the history of Beanie Babies. So to understand the pandemonium that was Beanie Babies, we need to start at the beginning, and that is with the creator, Ty Warner, an American businessman, billionaire, and convicted felon. So Ty was born September 3rd, 1944 in Chicago, Illinois. He was born to parents Hal and Georgia Warner, and he has a much younger sister named Joyce. His childhood growing up, it was very strained between him and his parents, and people speculate that it was due to his mother, Georgia's very erratic and dangerous behavior. It was said that she would spend her days staring in a mirror and yelling and talking to people that were not there. Thankfully, in 1970, she got the help that she needed and she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Later in life, once he became an adult, his parents did divorce. And he would try to seduce many of his dad's girlfriends in a form of competition and jealousy. And I feel like this tactic plays out later in life because Ty Warner never settled down. He never married. Throughout the 90s, when the Beanie Baby craze was like at its highest and all of that, he had multiple girlfriends, many of which he would actually bring into the business and have them help him, but then break up with them and kick them out of the business. Later in life, Ty decided that he wanted to be an actor. Who doesn't have a dream of becoming an actor, moving to LA, making it big, all of that? I feel like everybody at some point in their life has that dream. So that's exactly what he decided to do. He decided to pack up all his stuff and move to LA to pursue acting. However, this pursuit did not last long. It was a little bit of a failed one. He didn't exactly make it big like he wanted to. So 5 years later, he packed everything back up and moved back to Chicago and ended up getting a job with his dad at the toy company called Dakin. One thing that sticks out with me with Dakin is I don't know much about it, but they had Garfield plushies. And I remember Garfield. So it's like, oh, okay, Garfield plushies. That's really all that sticks in my mind about Dakin. He was actually one of their top salesmen. Like, he was amazing at being able to walk into a business and have this ability to be like, you know what's going to sell well for you? These plushies. You know what's going to sell well for you? These toys. Like, just this ability to be able to do that, I think is like pretty cool. And it was said too, he would roll up in a white Rolls Royce with a top hat on and a fur coat to make these sales with these clients, because he said, if I dress eccentric, they're going to be more intrigued and want to know what it is that I am selling. But that success all came to an end when a phone call was placed to the company stating that Ty was trying to sell his own products to gain customers. And you can't really do that. It kind of goes against the policy of a company. So he was fired, and he decided he was going to pack up his life and move to Italy to contemplate life, find himself, and figure out his next moves. This move to Italy would actually put everything in perspective for him, to figure everything out and really launch his career. Because while he was in Italy, he came across a stuffed cat in a store window and said to himself, you know what? I can make that better. I can do so much better than what they are doing. And that is all it took for him to pack everything back up and move back to Chicago and mortgage his condo and invest his life savings into Ty Inc. So the first line of toys that Ty decided to basically introduce to the world was a line of stuffed cats. It's what inspired him. It's what he decided to make. These cats started production in 1986. October of 1986 to be specific. Now, they were big. They were bigger than your average Beanie Baby. They were understuffed, they were fluffy, and they had big eyes. And Ty said the reason they had these big, blue, beautiful eyes is because the eyes are what draws you in. They're what makes it realistic. Now, because Ty did not have a warehouse, he did not have a headquarters, he did not have an office, these cats were shipped directly to him at his residence, his condo. And he would unpack these cats. He would inspect them. He would trim any stray hairs that they might have had. And then he would airbrush the coloring onto them. Then he would repack them and send them off to retailers just in time for the Christmas season. And he made money on these stuffed cats. A convention in Atlanta selling these stuffed cats, and he made $30,000 in one day. One day on these stuffed cats. Now, there is no documentation, no order forms, no flyers, no nothing on these stuffed cats, on what retailers carried them, who ordered how many, nothing. This was during a time when there was very little technology like that. Like, I guess you didn't have electronic order forms. I don't know. Like, this was 1986. I was born in 89. I wasn't even thought of at that time. So I don't even know what was going on at that time. But yeah, nothing like besides pictures on the internet exists of these stuffed cats. So I didn't even know these existed until I did research for this video. So if you had one of these original Ty Inc. stuffed cat plushies, let me know, because I am super intrigued about them. The year is now 1993, and Ty is doing amazing at selling these larger plushies. He's moved on from cats and he has now introduced dogs, rabbits, I believe bears, lambs, all, like basically any animal you can think of. He has introduced it into this line and he's doing amazing at it. But he got to thinking. He goes, you know, there's just something missing from the market. And that thing that is missing is a quality stuffed animal for cheap. So that's how Beanie Babies came about. I was going to introduce them to the market for only $5 each. And he launched this concept at the 1993 New York City Toy Fair. I feel like the Toy Fair, if you've got a toy and you want to get it out there to consumers and stuff like that, the Toy Fair is the way to go. And he introduced the 9 original Beanie Babies. So, the first 9 that were ever launched on the market were Legs the Frog. Legs the Frog ended up not being that popular. Then we have Brownie, or Cubby the Bear. Cubby, or Brownie, was first released as Brownie, but the name was later changed to Cubby in 1997 when he was given away by the thousands to children who were attending Chicago Cubs games. Then we have Pinchers the Lobster. This little lobster, this was my fiance's first Beanie Baby, and he named him Mr. Pinchers. I feel like I just got to add that in there because I was like, that was a cute little story to tell me. But Pinchers basically came out under the name Punchers, which ended up being a spelling mistake. Ty quickly fixed the mistake on most, okay, keyword there, most tags. So if you still have this little guy in your collection, like if you have not sold your collection, if you still have him, check the tag because you could be one of the lucky few that has a spelling error on the tag and it might be worth some money. Don't take my word for that because we'll get to that later in the video. And then there was Chocolate the Moose, Patty the Platypus. So Patty the Platypus actually ended up being one of the most popular Beanie Babies. She was named after longtime girlfriend and business partner to Ty. And she comes in various different colors. So we have purple, maroon, raspberry, and magenta. And magenta is actually the most sought after color for this little Patty the Platypus. Then we have Splash the Orca. Splash is best friends with Flash, and both of them use the same design pattern. And then we have Flash the Dolphin, which is Splash's best friend. We have Spot the Dog. So Spot the Dog was named Spot, even though he did not come with a spot on him. Like his first release, when he was introduced, did not have a spot. Later on, he was reintroduced with the spot. And then we have Squealer the Pig. And I just have to say, for someone who got their start selling cats, who launched his whole company around a series of plush cats, I am very surprised that there was not a single plush cat in this original lineup of Beanie Babies. Like, it just blows my mind. Now, at first, Ty was actually struggling to sell these Beanie Babies. Like, they just weren't selling. But 6 months later, he decided to release about 25 more. Like, he had an idea. He was not giving up at all on these Beanie Babies. He's like, they are going to sell. I know they are. And eventually, his struggles were soon going to turn to success. All thanks to a little lamb. So who is this little lamb that ended up making Beanie Babies such a success? Well, this little lamb is named Lovey. And Lovey was actually not a Beanie Baby. Lovey was actually a part of his bigger stuffed animals. And Lovey was primarily sold in hospital gift shops. Basically like, oh, you broke your leg, here's a stuffed lamb. Oh, you're sick, here's a stuffed lamb. It's like this little lamb was selling so well. Sadly, in 1995, due to an issue with the materials that were used to make Lovey the Lamb had to be discontinued. And people were upset because they did not want to see a product that was selling so incredibly well for them, that was helping them make money, be discontinued. So Ty spoke to these clients and simply told them Lovey was retired. And this simple statement was enough to get these people intrigued. They're like, what do you, retired? What do you mean? So now they're like, well, what other products are going to be retired? Because now we have to buy those, because if Lovey's being retired, then another one's going to sell so well. So I have to know which other one you're going to retire so I can make sure I get that, so I have it, so I could be like the sole person to have it, to sell it, to make money. Ty saw this interest, saw how people were coming to him with question after question of which item was going to end up being retired. And that's when he had an idea. He decided to take this concept of retiring and apply it to Beanie Babies. His longtime girlfriend at the time said, we planted this seed in consumers' minds that if they buy this little plush animal for $5 on the primary market, it'll end up being retired and make more money on the secondary market. And that is when Ty decided to start marketing these little plush Beanie Babies as collectibles. But he did it very, very quietly. All he simply did was tell his sales team members who were delivering the product to like the stores and stuff like that, basically tell them, yeah, here's a list of ones that are going to be retired. And those retailers would then turn around and tell people who were coming in and maybe showing just the slightest bit of interest to these little plushies that, oh yeah, by the way, Humphrey the camel right there, yeah, he's going to be retired. He's going to become super rare. And you might as well buy him now for $5 because you could turn around next month and make a profit. It's a little bit of a marketing genius, in my opinion. So that little marketing tactic mixed with deliberate scarcity, let's say he was releasing 10 Beanie Babies, like a line of 10 Beanie Babies. He would make it to where not every store had them all. One store would have maybe 3 of them, another one would have 5. He deliberately made it to where they were scarce. He reduced individual store shipments to limited numbers. So let's say you were a little small mom and pop toy store and you ordered all 10 of these Beanie Babies and you wanted 30 each. You ain't gonna get 30 each. You might get 2 of one, 5 of another, 10 of another. You wouldn't get a large number of them. You wouldn't get, it's like you wouldn't get your whole shipment. He produced designs in a limited quantity. Peanuts the elephant is an example. I believe he was first released in a royal blue color, and then he was later released in a light blue color, but he made those numbers like very scarce. I could have that backwards. He might have been released in a lighter blue version first and then a darker blue version. He just would re-release these Beanie Babies and just make it of smaller quantity. But all of these marketing tactics combined ended up creating a huge secondary market for these Beanie Babies and ended up increasing their value. One thing I want to point out too is you couldn't walk into just any store and get these Beanie Babies. No. Ty wanted to make it to where you could only go to small mom and pop toy stores, specialty gift shops to get these Beanie Babies. He refused to have them be sold in huge retail stores like Walmart, Toys R Us. The amount of times that Toys R Us came to Ty Warner about carrying his product and Ty flat out refused is ridiculous. Like, that is Toys R Us is like, or was, it's really not in the US anymore, was this huge store that carried every toy imaginable. So it was kind of like if you wanted your toy to be seen, you would want to put it in a big store. But Ty had this marketing genius where if they only had them in specialty gift shops, mom and pop toy stores, they were going to become more popular, more valuable. More people were going to be seeking them out. The amount of Hallmark stores that I was in the 90s is insane. Insane. Apparently, I waited outside of a Hallmark store with my mom overnight. I don't remember this at all, but we waited overnight outside of this Hallmark to get Beanie Babies. Do I remember which ones? No. No, I don't. But apparently we did that. My aunts and a family friend lined up at 5 a.m. outside of a specialty gift shop that didn't open until 9 a.m. to get Beanie Babies. Like, the people were starting to catch on. This Beanie Baby craze was starting to take off. So why Beanie Babies? What exactly made this small little plushie stand out amongst the rest of every other stuffed animal that was on the market at that time? Besides being affordable at only $5, Beanie Babies were purposely understuffed. You can see she is pretty much understuffed. She's like floppy, like you could toss her around, which is one thing that kids loved to do. They love to toss around their Beanie Babies, feel all the little pellets inside, which for the longest time, and my little brain, my little kid brain, I thought Beanie Babies were actually full of beans, you know, like the little dry bean packages that you can buy on the grocery store shelves. I thought that's what was in these. No, they're like PVC pellets. Being understuffed made it to where you could pose these little guys. Like, for example, you can make Prance sit. This like little posability factor made them very popular with kids as well. Like, they could pose their little stuffed animals and little stuff, all of that. Like, that, I guess, was very exciting for a child. So not only were they purposely understuffed, which a lot of people claimed, oh, they weren't purposely understuffed for posability reasons. They were purposely understuffed to cut costs. Either way, that posability factor actually worked with kids, which were supposed to be the main consumers of these things, by the way, okay? Kids. It worked in the favor of adding to their charm of being able to pose them in all different positions and play with them a lot better than you could with an actual regular stuffed animal that is full of stuffing that you can't really pose. But not only did the posability factor win with the Beanie Babies, but to add to their just adorable little charm, they came with hang tags. The iconic heart-shaped TY hang tag that started on the market as saying to from. Like, you would open it up and it would have to from, because it was supposed to be as like a gift. To whoever, from whoever. But then when they turned into collectibles, like right around that time, they released it to where the hang tags had little 4-line poems in them to give a little bit more of a characteristic to the Beanie Baby. They also had their birth date in them. For example, here is, again, Prance the cat. And inside it says Prance. Date of birth, November 20th, 1997. She darts around and swats the air, then looks confused when nothing's there. Pick her up and pet her soft fur. Listen closely and you'll hear her purr. There's just a little bit of charm just added to these Beanie Babies. And the fact that they had birthdays in them, kids loved going to the store and picking up the Beanie Baby and looking at the hang tag to try and find a Beanie Baby with the same birthday as them. So these were made for kids, right? I said kids loved the posability factor. They loved being able to toss them around. They loved going to a store trying to find one that had the same birthday as them. Like their plushies, their toys. So they're geared towards kids. And, you know, that's the direction that it seemed to be going. Kids could go in with their allowance money and be able to pick up one or two at only $5. They could collect and trade amongst their friends. And bringing Beanie Babies to school, that was the thing to do. Like you brought besides Pokemon cards, okay? Kids brought Beanie Babies to school and you could trade them with your friends. You could show off your new Beanie Baby. I got a little bit of out of hand, and schools actually had to end up banning Beanie Babies in school, just like they banned Pokemon cards and just like they banned those little Tamagotchis. Like, school is for learning, not fun. But once adults heard about certain ones that were retiring and could potentially cost more on the secondary market, is kind of when everything just accelerated. So this section is a little difficult for me because I'm an adult collector. I collect dolls, I collect action figures, stuff like that. But I feel like there is a right and a wrong way to be an adult collector, if that makes any sense. Like, don't go out and buy every Draculaura Monster Hideout, for example, that is on the shelf and leave none on the shelf for kids to enjoy because you want to turn around and sell that price for twice the amount on the secondary market. That's when I have a little bit of an issue with adult collectors, because there are some out there who take it too far. Now, with Beanie Babies, there were some adult collectors who were seeking them out to save, to later sell for more money to help put their kids through college. But then there were others who would seek them all out, buy them all, leave none for no one else, and sell them for 3 to 5 times the amount than what they were on the secondary market. Was this how resellers came about? Was this like the birth of resellers? Like, did Beanie Babies birth resellers? Or have they always been around? Or did Beanie Babies just help accelerate that? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. With this whole new frenzy of adult collectors coming into the Beanie Baby world, you ended up getting like whole conventions. And my aunts went to a couple of them, and these conventions were primarily held at like fairgrounds or hotels. And you could go into these conventions and you could buy Beanie Babies that you didn't have in your collection. You could sell ones that you no longer wanted in your collection, or you could trade. People were making money. So if you went to this convention and you had a Beanie Baby that was retired and somebody wanted that Beanie Baby, you didn't sell it for $5. You sold it for $50 or more. There were people who quit their 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, and their job was solely selling Beanie Babies. With adult collectors, companies saw that there was a marketing for accessories for your Beanie Babies. I remember I had a skunk Beanie Baby. That was my favorite Beanie Baby. And they made collars for your Beanie Babies with the Beanie Babies name on them. And my little skunk had a collar. You could also buy tag protectors, little tag protectors to put over these hang tags. They had ones like what Batty has that you could just slip over the tag, or they had these fancy dancy heavy duty plastic ones that you could kind of like close, almost like a locket kind of thing, close around the tag itself. Or you could get these plastic acrylic looking boxes to put your Beanie Babies in to protect them from dust and debris. My hallway growing up was floor to ceiling stacked with acrylic boxes filled with all of the Beanie Baby bears. I remember sitting down with my mom and putting tag protectors on all of our Beanie Babies. I was taking inventory of ones that we had and ones that we did not have. My mom was in deep, as well as a lot of other adults. Like I said in the beginning of this video, some adults were racking up thousands of dollars worth of credit card debt to get their hands on these Beanie Babies. They were calling stores, and stores were taking their credit card information over the phone and reserving Beanie Babies for people for when they got their shipment in to come in and get them. Adults were going in hard. My stepdad built me a bookshelf, handmade this bookshelf. He sketched it out, everything. It took up one entire wall in my room, and it was floor to ceiling, and it was stacked with Beanie Babies that my mom would get from Hallmark or through certain holidays and stuff for me, and I would put them on this bookshelf. It was a time. It was a crazy, wild time. Also, with adults coming into the collecting of Beanie Babies, some adults would get them for their kids and then tell their kids, these are for you, but you can't play with them because they're collectors. They're collectibles. You cannot play with them because one day we're going to sell them and you're going to be able to go to college, or you're going to have enough life savings to buy a car or your first house, this or that. So some of these poor kids had collections of Beanie Babies that they could not play with. One of my friends was telling me like her niece had tons of them, and her niece was like really young, like a little girl, and couldn't play with them, could just sit there and look at them. One of my other friend was telling me that he was tasked with putting hang tags on all of them, and it was you could look but you couldn't kind of touch and play with them kind of thing. I, however, did play with my Beanie Babies, specifically the dragons. I had this whole like little story thing where I would take my little brats and my Polly Pocket dolls, and I would make them ride around on the dragons and defeat the evil creatures of the world, which were usually the insect Beanie Babies. Yeah, I had a whole like story going on with my Beanie Babies. But it is really sad to hear some of my friends tell me their stories where, yeah, we had Beanie Babies, but we weren't allowed to play with them. God forbid you ripped off the tag. That was it. You rip off that hang tag. Now they're like, well, that's not worth anything now. Talking about the Beanie Baby pandemonium of the 90s would not be complete if I did not talk about the McDonald's Teenie Beanie Baby Frenzy of 1997. When it comes to Beanie Babies and the craziness of it all, this is the one thing that sticks out to me that I remember so vividly, of going to McDonald's, trying to track down every single one. It was crazy. This whole thing, sitting down doing this video and talking about everything, I feel like I sound like a crazy person, but Beanie Babies were pretty much taking over the world. Now, Ty Warner did not want to do any kind of collaborations with anyone. For example, Mattel came to him about doing a collaboration with Barbie. Ty said no. Book deals were coming in about children's books about his Beanie Babies. He said no. Steven Spielberg came to him about putting his Beanie Babies in a movie, and Ty said no. He even got offered a TV show, and he said no. Usually when you have a toy, you have a movie or a TV show that kind of ties in with this toy. And Ty Warner did not want to do that. He did not want to have any books or a TV show or a movie about his Beanie Babies because he felt that if he had to do those things, he would be giving a personality to his Beanie Babies, and he felt doing that would hinder kids being able to use their imagination when it came to their Beanie Babies. But when McDonald's approached Ty with this concept of making miniature versions of his Beanie Babies and calling them Teenie Beanies, Ty did not say no. See, Ty felt that McDonald's could offer something that no one else could. With his Beanie Babies being sold in mom and pop toy stores and specialty gift shops, it meant the people that shopped there, the consumers, were usually middle class. But McDonald's would be able to reach lower income consumers with his Beanie Babies. And therefore, lower income consumers would be introduced to the world of Beanie Babies and potentially go to these specialty gift shops and buy them. And this ended up being a huge success for McDonald's and Beanie Babies. People went crazy for these teeny Beanie Babies. I remember my grandmother having my grandpa drive just about every McDonald's location to get them. My aunts went to just about every single McDonald's location in West Palm Beach. And once they did that, they drove to Belle Glade. If you live in Florida and you are familiar with those two places, you know that that is a drive. This Teenie Beanie Baby frenzy got so out of control that McDonald's actually stopped telling customers which Beanie Baby was in the Happy Meal. That's how crazy it got. They were tired of answering the phones. They were tired of people coming through the drive-thru and holding up the line for everybody else just to ask which one's in the Happy Meal. So McDonald's made it. Now, I don't know if this is true for every location, but I know this happened in Florida. McDonald's made it to where if you wanted a Happy Meal, you had to come inside the restaurant. No more going through the drive-thru. Also, you had to have a child with you. Needing a child with you to get a Happy Meal led to a couple of my mom's friends asking if they could borrow me for the day. And we would, I'd drive around with her friends to different McDonald's locations to get Teenie Beanie Babies. I got Happy Meals. They got Teenie Beanie Babies. My aunts borrowed a family member's son to go to different locations to get Beanie Babies. It almost led to a family friend of ours getting arrested because she wanted Happy Meals and she didn't have her kids with her. Yeah, she almost got arrested. They called the cops. Eventually, she got kicked out, but nobody got arrested. Everyone's good. We laugh about it now. Some McDonald's made it to where if you were already in, you couldn't come back in. So these people were using different cars, coming in different disguises. People were gonna get those Teenie Beanie Babies. So what exactly is a Teenie Beanie Baby? I mentioned they were smaller versions of said Beanie Babies. Like, for example, we have Prance and we have Batty. They look pretty medium-sized, you know. Here's a Teenie Beanie Baby. Still in the Happy Meal wrapping. This is from 1998. And this is the second generation that they did with the Teenie Beanie Babies. But we're gonna go ahead and open this because don't go in the comments, because these ain't worth a thing. Okay, so we're gonna open this and I will show you guys what a Teenie Beanie Baby is. There you go. There's a Teenie Beanie Baby. This little thing is what drove people crazy. This is Dobie. It's a little Doberman. Yeah. And now McDonald's was very confident in their supply of over 100 million of these Teenie Beanie Babies, saying that there would be enough to sell to every household in America within the first few weeks. There was enough to go around for everybody. Everyone could get one. Within the first 2 weeks of this 5-week promotion of these Teenie Beanie Babies, they sold out. They sold out. And then shipments that were coming in to McDonald's that had new Teenie Beanie Babies on them had to get a police escort. What? Like, this was crazy. And out of all of like the pandemonium and craziness that was Beanie Babies, the McDonald's Teenie Beanie Baby craze is the one thing that sticks out in my mind the most. And I think it's just due to all of the media coverage that was going on with these Teenie Beanie Babies. Like, every time you turned on the news, it was something new about the Teenie Beanie Babies. A new rule that McDonald's was doing where it was one per person per day, or you had to have a kid with you if you wanted a Happy Meal, or they're no longer going to be answering the phones, or this McDonald's location just ran out, this one ran out, this one had this happen, they're getting police escorts to the store. This little guy got a police escort to the McDonald's that he came from. So Beanie Baby sales were through the roof. Ty Warner, he was making money. But in 1999, the retired pieces didn't get the amount of money that they were predicted to get. Now, when Ty was releasing new Beanie Babies, he would release a small amount, usually 10 or 12, somewhere around there. And collectors love that because a smaller collection means it would be easier for them to get. Ty released 24 Beanie Babies at once. That was the largest collection he ever released. And collectors were not happy because you're releasing a large collection like that. Now it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to get my hands on them, to find them, especially since he made it very scarce and reduced shipment sizes and stuff like that. Something that I can compare this to, if you collect dolls, back when Rainbow High released the Rainbow Vision dolls, and there were so many for us collectors to try to get, and we were having trouble trying to get them all, especially since a majority of them were like $50. And I think some people never even finished the Rainbow Vision, Rainbow High collection because so many were released at once. I think that was almost a downfall for Rainbow High. Doing research for this video and comparing it to that, I think that's where MGA made a big mistake with their Rainbow High dolls. And then the limiting of the outfits, and then the limiting of the wrist articulation. I could go on, but that is a video for another time. Back to Beanie Babies. With the release of all these Beanie Babies and people starting to realize that a lot of these were not getting a high price tag on the secondary market, and with supply catching up with demand, sales started to go down. Ty was coming to the realization that this Beanie Baby frenzy was coming to an end. But he already had a plan. He was already one step ahead. And that plan was to retire all Beanie Babies. So on August 31st, 1999, people logged on to the tie.com website and were met with a very strange announcement. And that announcement said, very important notice. On December 31st, 1999, at 11:59 p.m., all Beanie Babies will be retired. And that included all of the newer Beanie Babies that he had just released. And one of those Beanie Babies was a black bear that said "the end" embroidered on its chest. Was that like Ty's way of foreshadowing what was to come? Like, did he already know what was about to happen when he released that bear? Because that's what I always thought. This announcement stating that all Beanie Babies were going to be retired did help to drive up sales, but just a little bit, not enough. On December 24th, Ty made an announcement on the tie.com website stating that the fate of Beanie Babies would be left in the collector's hands. So it's almost like he backtracked a little bit. Like, maybe I won't retire them all. I'll leave that up to you guys. So for 50 cents, you could cast a vote on the fate of Beanie Babies. Now, this voting was only going to last for 48 hours. After those 48 hours were up, the votes were calculated and 91% was in favor of Beanie Babies continuing. And that's when Ty announced that he had about 71 new products that were sent to launch. But even with that announcement, it just wasn't enough in collectors' eyes anymore. Some of these collectors had amassed huge numbers of these Beanie Babies, and they weren't easy to store, and people were starting to realize that they weren't really worth anything. Like this little seed that had been planted in their head and everything, that yes, buy them for $5, you're going to be retired and you could turn around and sell them for way more than that on the secondary market. It was all a lie. So the Beanie Baby bubble popped. That's it. The end. Story over. Pretty much it just ended like that. Like that people realized, wow, these aren't worth anything. I collected these for nothing. My grandmother had her collection and she sold them. She sold them at the right time. This lady knew what she was doing. She sold them at the exact right time. And the money that she made selling these Beanie Babies was enough to pay for us to spend 2 weeks at Disney and Universal. And she still had money left over to put a down payment on her house. As for my collection that I shared with my mom, she's basically sold them. I don't know for how much. I don't think she sold at the right time, but she sold them or gave them away. I don't know. But she still has all of her bears, and she still has all of the holiday ones, because that was another thing that Ty Warner did. He made special holiday Beanie Babies, Valentine's Day one, Christmas ones, 4th of July, Halloween, made those. So she still has all of those. So in the beginning of this video, I said that Ty Warner was an American businessman. He created Ty Inc. I said he was a billionaire. Look at all the money he made off of these Beanie Babies. But I also said he was a convicted felon. Yeah. So in 2013, Ty Warner was arrested for tax evasion. It was found that he was taking money and putting it in an offshore account to avoid paying taxes. Listen, if you are a millionaire or a billionaire, you have the money and the ability to pay your taxes. and still have a good chunk of your money left over. So just pay your taxes. Did he go to jail? No. He got, I think, like 50 hours of like community service or something like that. It was basically like a slap on the wrist. Whereas if somebody like me were to not pay my taxes or be found out I was doing tax evasion, I would most likely probably be thrown in jail. It's not fair. The marketing tactics that Ty used with these Beanie Babies, convicted felon or not, worked. And I just find it so fascinating that just giving that simple phrase, oh, it was retired, and people becoming intrigued and then making the product scarce and everything caused this frenzy to where people were like, I gotta have every single one of them. Beanie Babies, they like came out at this perfect time, right at the beginning of the 90s, where people were still collecting things. Things were still affordable, and it was right at the rise of the internet. So I feel like combined with all of that, just created this perfect little recipe. One thing that I hear a lot of people talk about when they talk about Beanie Babies is they talk about the hunt. The hunt of going to these different gift shops, these different specialty stores to get the Beanie Babies. Going with a group of friends or family members for the day to hunt down the newest Beanie Baby is what people remember fondly. I would say sitting down with my mom and putting the tag protectors on the Beanie Babies, taking inventory, it was like, in a way, you were bonding, you were spending quality time together, you know, stuff like that. As weird as that sounds, that is what a lot of people say and remember when they talk about Beanie Babies, is the quality time that they spent with their friends or their loved ones. Beanie Babies like Batty, who apparently is worth a ton of money, and like Prance can still be found today at thrift stores for like $1, which is how much these two cost, and flea markets and stuff like that for next to nothing. Now, there is a list of Beanie Babies where people claim they are worth an astronomical amount of money, but I want you to understand something. It is only worth the amount that someone is willing to pay for it. Like this little bat right here, oh, that's Prance, not the bat. Batty is supposedly worth $12,000. Why is she worth that? I don't know. But I'm not about to list this little bat that I got for $1 onto eBay for $12,000, because who in their right mind is going to pay that? No one. The Princess Diana bear, the purple bear with the white rose, that is supposedly worth a crap ton of money, but yet you can find her on the shelf at a thrift store for $1. Like I said, it's only worth what someone is willing to pay. And no one out there is going to be paying an astronomical price for these Beanie Babies. In doing this video, researching it, asking my friends and family about memories that they had and stuff like that, it's really amazing to see what this little pellet-filled understuffed stuffed animal held for so many people. And I just want to give a shout out to all of my friends and family who did help me make this video by telling me their stories, their memories, stuff like that. It did really help, and it did put a lot of stuff into perspective of how crazy this all was. But let me know what you guys think of this video. Do you remember the Beanie Baby craze? Do you have any? And do you still have your collections? All that kind of stuff. Like I said, this is going to be a 3-part video. The next part is going to be about all the crimes that took place during this Beanie Baby craze, because oh my God, is there a lot? And I didn't know about it because I was a young kid at the time. But let me know what you guys think, all that kind of stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as it does help me and this channel out. All that kind of stuff. And I hope to see you in the next video. Love you. Bye.